Buckle up, Buttercup. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about. The world's heating up. From escalating drone wars between Ukraine and Russia to Trump deploying National Guard troops to California amid ICE protests and Governor Gavin Newsom saying he didn't want it, the tension is pretty intense. Yellowstone has installed new permanent monitoring gear as fears of volcanic activity rise, while Ukraine drone strikes on Moscow raise nuclear alarms. Russia's new military doctrine suggests looser thresholds for nuclear response. What does this mean for global security? And what does it mean for you? We're going to talk about it. Meanwhile, Elon Musk and Trump's teams reportedly speak during a pause in hostilities. That escalated quickly, didn't it? Are there major backroom deals in motion? Maybe. The markets aren't immune either. 401ks dropped by 3%. Gold is primed for a major breakout, and silver just hit a 13-year high. We're going to decode the chaos, connect the dots, and prepare you for what's going on behind the scenes. So let's go. I hope you're doing fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me. It's a beautiful day today here in Southern Colorado. Have a lot of news to share with you, and I know your time is priceless. So let's get into this. Now, I did want to let you know also about an awesome opportunity. I don't know if you've called Noble Gold Investments yet. What the heck are you waiting for? You should definitely give them a call. Noble Gold Investments is offering Leap Project listeners, if you convert your 401 or IRA into precious metals, a 10-ounce solid silver American flag bar to add to your collection. Noble Gold. I've been with Noble Gold now for, 6-7 years. And I've helped my friends and family get into precious metals and convert their 401s through Noble Gold. It's an awesome opportunity right now. I just wanted to share with you some quick statistics. I don't know if you knew this or not. Give me just 1 second. I've got this pulled up for you. Like the US dollar. Very interesting. Okay, check this out. Sorry. Momentary lapse of reason here. So every 6 years, the dollar loses about half of its buying power. So that means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by the year 2031. That's just 6 years away. You see it every time you go fill up your gas tank, you buy groceries, you pay the bills, prices are up, your dollar's down. There's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something that's actually real, something proven. That's gold and silver, an asset or assets that holds their value over time. That's one of the reasons I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high pressure sells, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. Right now, when you convert your 401 or IRA and you open up, or if you open up a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free solid 10-ounce silver American flag bar to add to your collection. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Give them a call. 1-877-646-5347. Don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. Oh yeah. So buckle up, Buttercup. Now, let me share with you. I've got a whole bunch of news articles that I want to share with you, and a lot of news. What are you up to today? Anything exciting? I might get a bike ride in here later. Ride my bike up a mountain pass. So check this out. 2,000 National Guard troops get sent to LA amid protests. President Trump says he's deploying 2,000 troops, National Guard troops, in response to immigration protests over the objections of California Governor Gavin Newsom. He's not happy about it. Actually, check this out. A multitude of news articles came out saying Newsom blasts deployment of National Guard to LA as purposefully inflammatory. Newsom calls Trump deployment of National Guard purposefully inflammatory. KTLA, Yahoo News. Look at how upset these protesters are. They're doing stupid stuff right now. Like, what in the hell would give you I don't know. I just think it's crazy that these guys are out there kicking Border Patrol trucks and they think they're going to, wow. Yeah, not very smart. Not very smart. But anyway, it's all good to protest, right? But to protest with violence and be stupid, not so much. So let's talk about this real quick. Recent reports indicate that President Trump has deployed 2,000 National Guard troops to LA. This action was taken in response to protests related to federal immigration enforcement operations, which led to clashes between demonstrators and authorities. Governor Gavin Newsom of California has publicly opposed this move, calling it purposefully inflammatory and potentially escalating tensions. Now, I want to read your comments. How do you feel about this? You know, it's interesting right now because there's definitely a division. There's been that line right down the middle. It seems like it's kind of half and half right now, at least in the media. But what are people really thinking? What do you think? Are you in California? How do you feel about this? Are you for violent protesting or are you for peaceful protests? And when does it get to a point where you've got so many people in there, even if you're trying to be peaceful, you've got a couple of charlatans sent in to stir the pot and cause chaos? What are they called? Provocateurs, whatever. So the federalization and deployment, President Trump signed a presidential memorandum to federalize and deploy the National Guard troops to Los Angeles. This action is unusual, as typically the state governor would retain control over the National Guard. Governor Newsom's objections. Governor Newsom has voiced strong opposition to the deployment, stating that the federal government is taking over the California National Guard, not out of necessity, but because they want a spectacle. He has argued that LA authorities are capable of managing the situation and that the deployment is unnecessary. So what's the White House justification? The White House has stated that the deployment is necessary to address the lawlessness that has been allowed to fester and to protect federal law enforcement officers. The protests in LA are in response to federal immigration enforcement operations, which have resulted in arrests and heightened tensions. Some of the protests have involved clashes between demonstrators and federal agents, with reports of tear gas, flashbang explosives, and pepper balls being used. Some people think that this is an escalation to a potential civil war scenario. Now, I don't think so, but it definitely has ruffled some feathers. People are concerned. The Constitution, we're going to look at the constitutional implications in a minute. Concerns have been raised by Governor Newsom and others that the deployment of the National Guard could further escalate the situation and potentially lead to more violence. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth also warned that active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton are on high alert and could be mobilized if violence continues. Did you know that in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the National Guard has recently been deployed? So this seems to be kind of more of a normal thing now. The Constitution, or the constitutional implications to National Guard in California. Now, this is according to artificial intelligence, so take this with a grain of salt. But the use of National Guard in California, particularly when deployed in response to civil unrest, raises complex constitutional questions, especially concerning the division of power between the federal government and state governments, as well as the balance between security and civil liberties. So let's take a look at this. Federal versus state authority, state control. Typically, the National Guard is under the command of the state governor and operates under state authority. Federalization. The president can federalize the National Guard, bringing it under federal control in specific circumstances, such as in cases of rebellion or when unable to execute the laws of the United States with regular forces. This places them under federal command, subject to the Posse Comitatus Act, which restricts the use of the military for domestic law enforcement. There's also the Insurrection Act. The president can invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy federal troops, including federalized National Guard, to suppress insurrection or enforce federal law, even potentially overriding state authority. Contention over authority. The president's ability to federalize the National Guard without the consent of the governor has been a source of legal challenges and debate, with some arguing that it is a chilling use of the military domestically to suppress dissent. So, the Posse Comitatus Act. The law generally prohibits the use of federal military forces for domestic law enforcement purposes, aiming to prevent military interference in civilian affairs and protect personal liberties. There's also the Insurrection Act exception. While the Posse Comitatus Act exists, the Insurrection Act is an exception that allows the president to deploy federal military forces, including federalized National Guard for domestic law enforcement under certain circumstances, such as in cases of insurrection. Regardless of whether the National Guard is acting under state or federal authority, the use of force must be reasonable under the circumstances, in line with constitutional standards like the Fourth Amendment. There's also the right to protest. The deployment of the National Guard during protests raises concerns about the potential for suppressing dissent and infringing on the right of peaceful assembly. The deployment of the National Guard, especially if engaging in law enforcement activities like arrests and searches, raises questions about due process and legal procedures. Now, my personal thoughts on this, I remember, 32 years ago when I was just a kid, I was warned about, like, it's really interesting, folks. Let me tell you just a little bit about my upbringing. So if you haven't watched the shows before, if you haven't heard me talk about it, ever since I was a little kid, I was warned about mark of the beast, concentration camps, checkpoints, a new monetary system, having to have some type of microchip in your body that would allow you to buy and sell. And without that microchip, you wouldn't be able to do so, by multiple people, and not by my parents, because my parents are super down to earth. They were, we went to church on Sundays, not all Sundays, but every once in a while we'd go to church, and always good vibes. We went to usually Lutheran churches or Christian denominations, but it was always a good vibe, good energy. My parents never talked about conspiracy theories growing up or anything like that, but I was warned outside of the house. I was warned by people that I would meet at a coffee shop, or by my friends. Like, I remember one of my friends growing up in school, his mom used to work for the FBI, and allegedly she got put on some type of blacklist because she was talking about certain things that she wasn't supposed to. And he told me about certain situations that could unfold in the future. And it actually kind of spooked me out. I remember I was 15. I was hanging out at a coffee shop. I used to hang out at this coffee shop called Java Jive all the time. I'd play chess, and of course, obviously, slough school. And then, hey guys, let's go take a smoke break real quick. It's 4:19. Got a minute? And then we'd go play chess, and we'd go drink coffee. But anyway, at this coffee shop, this one guy started coming around, and he was like the older gentleman at the time. I think he was probably in his 30s. I don't know. But he started coming around talking about the mark of the beast and Revelation, and how if you didn't take the mark of the beast, then you'd be instantly, or they'd put you in some type of camp. And it kind of spooked me out. And it was interesting because he ended up getting a bunch of us together at this coffee shop to go watch these videos at a house about the New World Order. And, it had George Bush Sr. up there saying, it's a new world order. And like the way that they put it all together, it definitely put that fear-based mindset into your mind. Like, oh man, the mark of the beast is coming. Revelation is coming. It's almost here. Oh no. So I had been warned by a multitude of people growing up about this new world order and this mark of the beast and checkpoints, etc. And it kind of spooked me out back in the day. I'll tell you, it did. It spooked me out quite a bit. I mean, it spooked me out so much that I told my parents about it. My parents had me see a psychiatrist because they were worried about me. They're like, is he okay? What's going on? So I saw a shrink. I told him how I felt. I told him what I heard. And he ended up telling my parents, he's like, no, he's okay. He just has different political beliefs. It's all good. So my parents are like, okay, thank you. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I appreciate you. Much love. Just looking out for me. But anyway, up until, it was interesting because I was warned by different people in different scenarios for so long about these events, and I didn't really know what to think about it at the time, except for, geez, I must be being warned about this for a reason. There must be a reason I'm getting all this, New World Order programming. And even years later, after I stopped seeing that guy at the coffee shop and he stopped coming around, I felt like I was almost being followed, because he would appear at places that he shouldn't show up. Like, I used to go, I was a big, I was a pretty big party animal from 15 to 20. And when I was around 18, somewhere around there, I used to go to this dance club a lot. And he ended up going to that dance club, just kind of keeping an eye out on me. It was really interesting, really very interesting now that I think about it, especially. But what's even more interesting is the events that have unfolded years later that seem to almost parallel or mimic some of the warnings that I was given years ago. I've studied Revelation in detail. I've probably read Revelation more than any of the scriptures, and I've studied scriptures from ancient Sumerian, Babylonian, Akkadian, Greek, Roman, Jewish traditions, Egyptian traditions, Coptic texts, etc. But Revelation has been one in particular that I've just been fascinated with. And even Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma says that Revelation is one of the most important scriptures in our lexicon of knowledge. Now, personally, I think revelation is more of a blueprint. It's an outline. It's something that can be used in almost any age or any timeline because of the way that it's written out. And it can also be used as like a script for what's to take place in the future. But when we look at these, when we look at the Civil War potential or the possibility of a civil type war, think about the movie that came out a couple years ago, or even a year ago. Remember the movie that came out, Civil War? And the way that that was depicted is almost like there's this breakup in and these factions of different ideas and mindsets. Like you've got the nationalists, you've got the racist extremists, and that seemed to be the focus of Civil War of the film. And the way that the media and these ICE officers and these arrests and deportations, the way that the media is packaging it, I'm not saying that this is like actually what's happening, but the way that the media is packaging it, it definitely seems to be creating this division at the home front, very much so, with a multitude of personal beliefs and ideas, not just racism, but then you've got different prejudices with religions, and it's definitely coming to a boiling point. And I think it's almost, I don't want to say, how do I put this? The media loves to get you hooked. The news loves to hook you. And if they've got you freaked out and they have you believing what they're saying, there's a much better chance you're going to watch that media. You're going to watch that news or that information or that channel. That's why a lot of these news channels and media outlets will cater to the people that are watching them because they want to push up their numbers. So they're going to say, they're going to gear their ideas and their scripts towards the type of people that are watching it or what they believe the type of people want to hear. This causes more division. This creates also like media soldiers, mental people that will just follow what the media says, hook and sinker. And then you have different people at certain levels that are very charismatic and very good at creating these cult-like personalities where other people will latch on, they'll believe anything they say, and they won't do their own research because they want to follow that cult. It's just kind of, it's a psychological, it's something that's embedded in most people. It's not necessarily bad. It is what it is. Like if you're using these techniques for good, that's one thing. When I say these techniques, I'm talking about like neurolinguistic programming, psychological conditioning, getting people to think certain ways and question certain ideas. If you do it the right way, it can be very beneficial, but you can also do it to where you can suppress people's minds and you can get people stuck in their own mental prisons and following these certain paths and ideas. And with supercomputers right now that are calculating quadrillions of floating points per second, the powers that be can use simulation scenario protocol. Simulation scenario protocol is where they can actually take sims of people and cultures and predict the outcome of an event based upon these sims in a computer within a pretty accurate, like some of them are very accurate. I know that 15 years ago, I read about technologies and heard about technologies that just by having your phone with you, if you have your phone with you for a week, there's companies that can predict what you're going to do, where you're going to go, and who you're going to talk to within a 90%, approximately 90% accuracy 15 years ago, just having your phone with you. Now think of what they can do with all the stuff that's in social media, all the times the phones listen to you and conversations that you've had with people about certain political ideas or religious ideas or spiritual ideas, and they can compile all that data and then use supercomputers with the right programs to calculate what scenarios take place. So imagine the powers that be doing that on entire civilizations now, creating scenarios that have a specific end game in mind. What's going on right now with the conflict? Well, we've got major unrest in big cities. We have for several years. You know, there's actually a book you should read if you get a chance, or just read the outline of it, because it seems to be, well, just read it. Let's just if you get a chance, read the protocols of the Communist Manifesto. If you read the Communist Manifesto and you look at what was going on in the media, at least the way that the media was portraying society just a couple years ago, and you take that back 20 years, tell me 10 to 20 years, tell me if you think that there's some very interesting similarities between that book or those protocols or that manifesto and the way that the media seems to portray things. And then you have to ask yourself, well, who controls the media? Very interesting. It's one of the reasons I started Leak Project. There's only 5 corporations that control over 90% of what you see and what you're indoctrinated with. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that just sits there and watches the 5 brain drain media outlets. I want to find this information out for myself. I want to come up with my own conclusions. I want to do my own research. So many people out there now will take one piece of information on the internet and think that it's true, and then they'll blast it off to 100 other outlets, and then there will be 100 people at each of those outlets that blast it off to 100 other outlets. So it's very easy to spread disinformation in the mainstream and the alternative media. The alternative media, in my opinion, in many ways has become worse than the mainstream. Not all of them. Like, there's still some great alternative media reporters out there, but it just seems like overall, at least what's being promoted, like when you see these videos on certain platforms that get millions of views, and then you see other videos that are 10 times more in depth that you have to like scroll down and find because it's on page 10, not on the first. Like, there's certain, how do I put this? If you see a video with 1 million views talking about propaganda in the war machine, there's probably a reason for that. If you see a video that's much more in depth, that's looking at things from a Hawkeye point of view, like looking at it from out here instead of in here, with a lot more information and a lot more data, giving the people watching the ability to make up their own decision with the data, 5,000 views. Oh, they got 500,000 subscribers, but their videos are getting 5,000 views. Interesting. Then these guys over here, they've got 100,000 subscribers and their videos are getting 1 million views every single time. They're not nearly as interesting. It's more cut and paste. It's corporate, it's like corporate cut and paste. It's gotten pretty obvious. Anyway, so there's a lot going on with these protests. A lot of people believe that this could be a potential for more division, which potentially could create a civil war. I don't see it yet. I do not see it yet. I think it's going to be okay. I think we're going to work it out as a nation. I think it's going to get back to more of an even kill situation here in a few years, but maybe not for a while. The next couple of years, politically speaking, geopolitically speaking, are going to be very intense. And there might or might not be a couple, I'm thinking 2 or 3 potential major events that take place within the next 2 years that could create more order out of chaos. We'll just leave it at that for now. But these protests right now going on in California, and the National Guard being deployed in not only California, but also Albuquerque, folks. I'll bet you didn't know that a lot of people didn't know this, but Albuquerque has been dealing with National Guard troops helping out the local police, because from the research I have done, the governor of New Mexico said, hey, we could definitely use some help right now in Albuquerque. So what do you think? Now, let's jump into the next articles, because this is a really freaking big deal, potentially, or it may just be a nothing burger. Daily Montana. Permanent monitoring equipment headed to Biscuit Basin area in Yellowstone National Park. You remember back in 2024, there was that big explosion at Biscuit Basin that launched 3-foot boulders, or not boulders, 3-foot rocks, hundreds of feet in the air. Well, now they're sending permanent monitoring equipment to that location because there's been several events that have taken place since then. Listen to this. Let's get into this. Following the July 23rd, 2024 hydrothermal explosion at Black Diamond Pool in Biscuit Basin, Yellowstone National Park, permanent monitoring equipment is being installed this summer. This equipment will help scientists understand the behavior of the area and monitor for future events. Let me do a screen share on this with you. Permanent monitoring station. Scientists will be testing and phasing in the installation of a permanent station to capture acoustic noise, to monitor ground deformation, and detect seismic changes. So they've got GPS station, microphones, and seismic monitoring equipment. They've also got a webcam. A temporary webcam was installed May 14th, 2025 to monitor Black Diamond Pool. It captures static images every 15 minutes and records video on site. The images are available to the public. So the reason for the increased monitoring was the hydrothermal explosion, July 23rd, 2024. The explosion damaged the boardwalk and raised concerns about future hazardous events. Black Diamond Pool has shown continued erratic behavior with smaller eruptions observed since the explosion, and the new equipment will help scientists better understand the new normal for Black Diamond Pool and improve predictive models for hydrothermal activity. Biscuit Basin is still closed to the public, and the future reopening date is uncertain. So, Biscuit Basin. Several days ago, there was the Pearl Harbor of Russia, or what is termed Russia's Pearl Harbor, where Ukraine launched a massive drone attack on Russia, very close to its borders, using these containers that had roofs that actually opened up from remote controls that allowed these drones to then exit and then meet their targets deep into Russian territory. And this has raised concerns about a nuclear option or possibility of Russia using a nuclear weapon. I went back and read an article from November of last year. This is ICANN. And new Russian doctrine increases possible nuclear weapon use scenarios. Recent nuclear signaling by Russia in the context of its ongoing invasion of Ukraine demonstrates the ever-present threat of nuclear escalation as long as nuclear weapons exist. And let's take a look at this. November 19th, Russia officially adopted a new nuclear weapons doctrine announced in September. The new policy states that Russia could launch nuclear weapons in response to an attack on its territory by a non-nuclear armed state, backed by a nuclear armed one. While experts debate how novel the doctrine is, given similar proclamations in the past, it is important to take note of the nuclear threat and the escalatory intent, behind it seriously. ICANN condemned the new doctrine when it was announced in September, saying, today's updates to Russia's nuclear doctrine outlining when Russia could use nuclear weapons are dangerously ambiguous. They blur the line between conventional and nuclear attack and undermine predictability, increasing the risk of nuclear war. Ukraine drone barrage targets Moscow as Zelensky demands accountability for Putin. This is hot off the press today, ABC News. And I wanted to talk a little bit. So you remember back in May, there was a claim that emerged that an assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin involving a helicopter occurred May 20th, 2025, during his visit to the Kursk region. A Russian military official, Yuri Dashkin, commander of a Russian air defense division, stated that Putin's helicopter was at the epicenter of a large-scale Ukrainian drone attack on that date. This alleged incident occurred while Putin was in the Kursk region, a border area with Ukraine, for the first time since Russia claimed it had repelled Ukrainian forces from the region. Russian air defenses reportedly engaged drones while a helicopter was airborne, and a drone was detected approaching the flight path before being neutralized. No injuries or damage was reported, and Putin's convoy continued without interruption. So that's lack of confirmation, they say. The Moscow Times, citing current and former Russian officials, reported that the Russian claim of a helicopter attack was likely staged as a PR stunt to portray Putin as a leader who shares the risks faced by ordinary citizens. Ukraine's Center for Strategic Communications and Information Security denied the reports, and there's Kremlin science. News outlets contacted the Kremlin for comment, but they remained silent on the matter. Very interesting. So Russia's retaliation to Ukraine drone strikes that targeted key bombers and aircraft in response to Ukraine's recent drone attacks on Russian air bases, specifically Operation Spiderweb, which targeted bombers and aircraft deep within Russia. Moscow has launched a massive retaliatory strike across Ukraine. This has been described as one of the largest air attacks launched by Russia in the war. Russia deployed hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles, including cruise and ballistic missiles, targeting numerous regions across Ukraine, including Kyiv, Lviv, Volyn, Kharkiv, Kherson, and others. Sorry if I mispronounced the names. While military targets were claimed, the attacks also struck civilian areas, as well as damage to residential buildings, infrastructure, and even a kindergarten. Russia's response involved a combination of missile and drone strikes, including Kh-101 cruise missiles launched from long-range bombers and the Iskander ballistic missiles. Wow. But in other news, Trump and Musk aides have spoken amid pause and hostilities. Oh, are they making up now? Are they done with the social media attacks on each other? I hope so. But let's take a look at this. The Musk-Trump phone call and ceasefire in feud. A fragile ceasefire has been brokered amid a, what do you call that? Rancorous feud between Elon Musk and former President Donald Trump. He's still the president. Elon Musk and President Donald Trump reportedly following a phone call between their representatives on Friday. Politico.com. Trump has paused his verbal attacks on Musk via Truth Social. Those sources suggest he remains displeased. The root issues include Musk's insinuations trying Trump to Jeffrey Epstein and Trump's upset over Musk's criticism of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which Musk called a mountain of disgusting pork. Despite the ceasefire, neither side seems ready to bury the hatchet permanently. Both retain underlying discontent. Politico.com. That's kind of an interesting way to put it. So let's look at the broader contextual background here. So Musk publicly criticized key Trump-backed legislation, the Big Beautiful Bill, prompting Trump to threaten canceling SpaceX and other federal contracts. Musk escalated the dispute by calling for Trump's impeachment and alluding to connections with Epstein, then hinted at forming a new political party. In reaction, Trump called Musk lost his mind, said he wouldn't speak with him for a while, and suggested Musk would face serious consequences if he cross-supported Democrats. So the timeline started June 3rd. Musk criticizing Trump's domestic bill. Then June 5th, Musk blasts Trump on social media. June 6th, White House reports no immediate call scheduled. Negotiations held behind the scenes. And then today, June 8th, Politico reports a tentative truce following a representative level call. So, can't we all just get along? This was an interesting article that I found also. The average 401k balances fell 3% to $127,100 in the first 3 months of the year, according to Fidelity, one of the nation's largest retirement plan providers. Fidelity attributed the drop to market swings, which also impacted individual retirement accounts, where the average balances fell 4%. Wow. But 2025 might be the best year yet to buy gold before the next jump. NewYorkPost.com. Read all about it. And silver has reached its highest level in 13 years, surpassing $36 an ounce for the first time since 2012. This surge is attributed to a combination of factors, including strong investor demand, expectations of interest rate cuts, and a potential shift away from gold's dominance in the precious metals market. Well, that's pretty cool. So, how do you feel about all of this? How do you feel about the world today? You feel like it's a safer place? Or do you feel like do you feel like the world's one step away from nuclear Armageddon? I don't know. Maybe that's the new norm. Maybe the new norm is to have these extreme sides, the extreme left, the extreme right, and less in the middle. Kind of like the middle class has been, the middle class for so many years in America has been like the tree that holds everything together, the trunk, the foundation. And so many years of, well, it just definitely seems like it's a lot more extreme now than it used to be. And with technologies and ideals and social media and artificial intelligence, oh my gosh. Like, one thing I want to talk about real quick with y'all, I hope you're not one of these people that sees an artificial intelligence generated image and then thinks it's legit and then shares it out on social media to all your friends and then freaks everybody out. Like the latest artificial intelligence rendering on social media is the alleged red sun, or it's not the sun. There's no way it could be the sun because it doesn't look like the sun and it can't be the moon. Well, y'all know about all the smoke in Canada and all the fires in Canada that created a ton of smoke that then came into the States. If you have a ton of like smoke in the atmosphere, it's going to make the sun look different. I'm just saying. It's not Nibiru, okay? It's not Nibiru. It's okay. Calm down, take a break, take a chill pill, go outside, get some fresh air. It's not Nibiru. We're still here. Big James says Reagan began the destruction of the middle class. You think so? I haven't heard that from anybody yet. That's interesting. I mean, I would like to hear your thoughts on that, why you think that way. Deborah says, crazy world. For many younger people, this is norm. What's next? Good question. What's next? I don't know. Aaron says, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Who do we got in the chat here? A bunch of amazing people in the chat. I thank you all for being here with me. I hope to see you on Patreon. I'm uploading exclusive content on Patreon every single day. Almost every day. I shouldn't say every day, but a lot. I'm uploading a lot of exclusive content on Patreon. And we've got an awesome petroglyph tour coming up here at the end of the month. It's very affordable. It could be Diamond and myself. We're going to be taking people to these petroglyphs that are in an area that's not even on the map. So it's a couple hours outside of Durango, Colorado, just so you know. But these petroglyphs aren't even on the map. And then we're going to look at these ruins out there. Now, some of these ruins are on this huge boulder that we call Skull Castle, because there's ruins on top of the giant rock that looks like a skull, and there's ruins underneath it. So it's like a 2-story castle almost. So we call that the Skeletor Castle. We're going to take a look at that. Hope to see you for that event. But let's see what the wild man says. Brother Rex, I keep saying that. They finally tell us they are blocking the sun, and then this happens. It's interesting, isn't it? Stu, good to see you. How you doing? Big James says, raise the minimum wage, attack on the unions, war on drugs, Iran, a Heritage Foundation pick. He is a big reason education costs so much. Who are you talking about? North Cal here. Rovin says, Cascadian, a bigger concern to me than nuke. Dustin says, buy iodine. Seismic delivery systems. I've been mobilized to the front. Hummingbird, yeah. It's going to be in the Mesa Verde area. If y'all get a chance to look it up, the petroglyph tour that I'm talking about, look up Mesa Verde and then look up petroglyphs around Mesa Verde. But we're not going to the Mesa Verde National Park. We're actually going to be in an area that it's totally off the map, but it's within, I would say, 45 minutes of the Mesa Verde. So we got some volcanoes. Awesome. You got to love volcanoes. There's one off the coast of Oregon right now, a couple 100 miles off the coast, that experts are saying will go off this year. They've got some seismic activity. They're checking it out right now. Big James says, do you think Trump will send troops and equipment from the parade in the DC area after using the Insurrection Act or something? Potentially. I mean, I've seen a lot of big changes with the geopolitical side of things. Like we're sending equipment and troops to different places. I was just reading a report that Taiwan several years ago bought a fleet of F-16s, and we're delaying the shipment of these F-16s to Taiwan, which I find very interesting, unless there's some kind of back deal is being made with China. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here, but it was like an $8 billion deal with several dozen of these F-16s that were supposed to be sent to Taiwan. And now China's got these, 6th generation stealth fighters out, which make the F-16s obsolete in many ways. So they say. Find that very odd. Rainier would be a big eruption. You're absolutely right. Mount Rainier, I've done a couple of reports on that the past few months. There's a lot of concern about potential for a volcano at Mount Rainier because of the amount of people in the area. I used to live in the Northwest, so I remember seeing the signs that said, go this way if there's, a volcanic eruption at Mount Rainier. You got Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, you have the Ring of Fire. And there's been a lot of news lately about the potential of Planet 9. There's actually some news articles coming out saying that they've discovered Planet 9. They're certain it's there, but we don't have any images of it yet, folks. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you see an article of this red sun, that, like, a lot of them are even AI rendered now. A lot of these social media links that people are sharing, it's an AI rendered red sun. It's not the one that was captured with film. Now the ones that I've seen on film are very interesting because several different people have sent in these videos of them filming what looks like a red sun. And then you'll see them filming this red sun. And then they're like, it can't be the sun because if you look at the bottom there, you've got this sunset. So how is there a sunset down here? There's no sunset up here. And then there's this red star. There's this red sun. That's not possible. It can't be our sun. That's not true. That's not true at all. It is the sun. And the reason it looks like that is because the amount of smoke in the atmosphere and the conditions. So it's the sun. If that was a second star, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now because you would be seeing lightning bolts, giant plasma bolts like the thunderbolts of the gods that were talked about 6,000 years ago. And also Göbekli Tepe talked about the Younger Dryas event and these asteroids smashing into Earth, etc., 12,000 years ago. There is no way we would be having this conversation right now the way that we are if Nibiru or Planet X or Planet 9 or a second sun was as close as people thought it was. There's no way. Because you would be seeing, it would be so close that the amount of lightning and plasma that would be arcing our planet, you would be seeing canyons created from this arcing, like the Grand Canyon as an example. Yes, a lot of it is water erosion, and also potentially a lot of the Grand Canyon could have been formed from a gigantic plasma bolt arcing from another planetary body, potentially Venus. Very interesting theory on that. Can't confirm or deny that, but it's definitely something you want to look into. What's up, Agent Cat? Good to see you. How the heck are you? Beautiful day today. How's it going out there in Canada? The sun is super hot. And you know what? Speaking of the sun, the solar flares are intense. Solar maximum intense. Solar minimum intense. The biggest problem is this next solar maximum that we're going into, how weak will the magnetosphere be of the planet? So if we've got a real strong magnetosphere, it does a much better job blocking the solar radiation. But if you have a weakened magnetosphere and more intense solar flares, that is a recipe for opportunities, especially when you have thousands of satellites in space and one of those satellites goes off target or goes off orbit and then smashes into another satellite. You could have a domino effect where a whole bunch of satellites break into each other, smash, get destroyed, and that could take years to fix, if ever. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now that I think as a society, as a civilization, as people, we need to have more checks and balances with this tech. We need to have a hardened electrical grid, big time. You know, Greg Allison talks about that on a regular basis. He's a big proponent of the electrical grid, and he's very smart. Greg's literally a genius. He's a genius hillbilly. It's so cool. He lives on a homestead in a small home, and he builds rockets and does top secret work for defense contractors. It's pretty cool. He's one of the coolest people I know. There are some people have talked about potential health opportunities during solar and geomagnetic storms. Why would Tool know more than scientists? Are you talking about the band Tool? First song I think of is "Why Can't We Not Be Sober?" I know I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Learn to Swim. That was the song. Learn to Swim. Get a boat, kayak. Yeah, Greg's awesome. I'm glad it's a beautiful day in Nova Scotia. Are you close to the water out there? Ridge Runner says his booty hurts from a bike wreck. That sucks. Well, don't let it deter you from riding your bike. Let's talk about the Navy flood maps for a minute. Maybe I could pull this up real quick since somebody brought it up. Navy flood map. I don't know how much I believe this is a Navy flood map, but let's just go ahead and say that it is. And then there's the Edgar Cayce map, so here, let me show you this. Let's do a screen share. All right. Okay. This is the alleged Navy flood map. And I've also heard people say that this is the map that Edgar Cayce predicted in one of his sessions that he had. And I'm going to tell you why I think that this map is nonsense. Have you been to Nevada? Have you been to Utah? Nevada and Utah, most of Utah is right around 4,000 feet elevation or more. And some of these areas that are completely covered in water in Utah, there are mountain passes in Utah over 10,000 feet. I think Utah even has an 11,000 foot mountain, the Duche Mountain or something like that. So there's a lot of mountain ranges in Utah. So to have the water completely cover Utah and Nevada and Arizona's high elevation, they've got lower elevation as well, but Nevada has a bunch of high elevation. Idaho has a bunch of high elevation. Wyoming, that whole area, like this whole area being covered in water, I'm not buying it. Now, the potential for water going from Louisiana or from the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America, I guess it's called now. Can we call it the Gulf of something? You've got this water, this river that goes all the way from South America up into the Great Lakes. I would see that being more possible. But where do they get this information, folks? All we've got is these reports on the internet of an alleged leaked Navy map. And then people go wild and they have their ideas and they're like, oh man, this has got to be it. We don't know that. So I'm not convinced. I think it would be a lot less extreme than this. I think maybe potentially if there was a huge flood, now this is just me talking out loud here, so take it for what you will. But the sea level areas, I could see having some opportunities if there's ever that event that takes place. But how many decades have scientists been saying that Florida is going to be underwater in the near future because of all the ice that's going to melt? Well, Florida is still there. We've got pictures of the East Coast that are supposed to be underwater now in the exact same place that they were 400 years ago. So who's wrong and who's right? And how many times can science... Well, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, yeah, I'm not convinced. You really think the Navy's going to make a map that looks like this anyway? This looks like a map that somebody made on their PC from the late 90s. Like, remember the old 486? You had the 386 and the 486 in the late 90s. That's what I think of when I see this map. I don't see the Navy using this as a map or a leaked map from the Navy. Maybe somebody took a leaked map from the Navy from some think tank and then made their own. But let's use some common sense here. Let's think about this kind of stuff. PC Tweak says the Navy wouldn't share it. Rochelle says the map is unrealistic. Hey, what's up, Utah Spice and everything nice? How's it going? Good to see you. You better not. Utah Spice says, I'm going to drown. Actually, that you can't do that. See, I can't even read the words right. I'm bringing a boat right now. Actually, that map makes more sense for how it used to be instead of how it will be. In my opinion, Salt Lake in old documents used to be a boating port. Takes off conspiracy hat. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. So I have seen petroglyphs in the desert of Utah, like big time desert. I've seen petroglyphs of sailboats. I've shared those pictures with you before. I'll do it again in the future. There is a picture of what looks like a freaking sailboat, like a Phoenician sailboat. And I think it's in Bluff, Utah. It's in the middle of the desert. And not only is there this boat, But then next to the boat, it has all these animals. So I'm looking at it. I'm trying to put it together, and I'm like, are they showing us a trade that was made with sea travelers, where these sea travelers brought in a bunch of different animals to trade with the locals? I saw a petroglyph. My friend showed me a petroglyph of what looks like, this one looks even more like a boat. This is like high detail in Michigan, of a potential Phoenician sailboat, another boat in Michigan. Yeah, hello. So things have changed substantially over the past couple of thousand years. And if you ever get a chance, I really hope to see you at this petroglyph tour, because where we're going to be at, it's called Canyon of the Ancients. And just several hundred years ago, there were hundreds of thousands of people that spanned this area. Now there's thousands. Some places there's zero. It's just like this. So what happened? Well, most likely there was a lot more water there back 800 to 1,000 years ago. The water went away. So did the villagers. So did the locals. So did the natives. They had to go somewhere else. And maybe Utah Spy says that petroglyph is Argo, the cosmic boat, in my opinion. Very well could be. I can't prove that either way. So somebody asked the Grand Canyon in ancient Egypt. There's a lot of people that think there's connections with the Grand Canyon in ancient Egypt, especially because of the alleged Kincaid Cave that was supposedly discovered in the early 1900s in the Grand Canyon off the Colorado River, a couple of thousand feet up the cliffside. Allegedly, Kincaid discovered a bunch of artifacts and Oriental mummies that could have been thousands of years old. They described it as, and they said they were all male. So they thought that it could have been some type of like military group or something. But you know what, folks? I've searched for that cave. I think I know where the cave is supposed to be. I've been to the rim of where the cave is supposed to be. And that area is absolutely magical. It is amazing. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And the experiences I had out there with Shondell. I went out there once with Shondell. He's a great friend of mine. I consider Shondell one of my best friends. I went out there with Jim Willis once. That was an interesting experience when I went out there with Jim Willis. And make a long story short, when I went out there with Sean, and I also went out there with Jared, my friend Jared. And so we had a great time. We spent days out there searching for this cave on this cliffside. We didn't see the cave, but what I did see out there after I left. So just so you know, folks, if you go to this area that we were at, where the Kincaid Cave is supposed to be about 2,000 feet down, we also had a Black Hawk helicopter fly over us, and that's on, I think, the WTF files. Somebody took that video footage and put it on their podcast, which is totally fine by me. But we were out there, and you can see Isis's temple. It's called Isis Temple. It's so cool. Whether or not it's really Isis's temple, I don't know, but that's what it's called, is Isis Temple. And if you look at a map of the Grand Canyon, a bunch of the locations actually have names that are named after certain deities, gods, goddesses. And like you've got Vedic deities out there. You've got names. You've got Viking names out there. You've got ancient Sumerian and Babylonian names. You've got gods, like Greek gods names out there. And so when I was out there with my friend Shondell, and we were at the Isis, we were overlooking, you could see the Isis temple. And I had I got some beautiful footage of the sun rays going directly onto the Isis temple. I mean, it's like a 1 in a million shot right there for us. Absolutely beautiful. And so the whole time I was out there, for whatever reason, I just had this like this strong connection with Isis, and the thoughts that were going through my mind, etc. And when we left that place, we stopped in Page, the gas station, and I had this experience in the gas station, which was so wild. I don't know. I'll tell you more about it later. I brought it up one time before, but it's almost like so magical, so spiritual, that there was definitely some connections there. Anyway, so Rex, do you think there's anything in the RMNP? I've been told there is, but not seen any. What is RMNP? I don't know what that is. Well, I don't know what that means, so I can't. And CCR5. I have not heard of CCR5 either. I know what the C5 protocols are, but not CCR5. Run with scissors is in the hat, in the house, in the chat. I said hat because I was thinking house and chat, so I just made it hat. Good to see you. It's been a while. Hope you're doing good. Yeah, Mule Point is amazing. Absolutely. All of Grand Canyon is amazing. You know what else is amazing is the Canyon Lands. If you ever get a chance to go to the Canyon Lands, it is incredible. You can actually like go into the Canyon Lands. You can take your Jeep in there, your off-road vehicle in there. It's amazing. All right, everybody. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I think we're going to wind this podcast down for now. We'll be back later. So I hope you all have a beautiful day. Hit the bell for all notifications. Check back daily for new content. Whether you get a notification or not, just check back daily because for whatever reason, some people don't get notifications. And be excellent to each other. Here at Leak Project, the motto for 2025 is everything is bullshit until proven otherwise. And of course, always be the change you want to see. Thank you.